All right. So today we're talking all about how to get faster.
Excellent. That sounds so much fun.
So much fun. It's like something that all runners basically want to do, right? Like a lot of times people get into running and they're like, okay, I just want to get in better shape, right? Or I want to lose weight, or I want to do something. And then they start to run and they're like, oh, okay, this is how fast I'm running. I wonder if I could get faster, right? I feel like that's kind of the natural progression of people.
I wonder if I could do it faster.
Right.
That person's doing it faster. It's that immediate like comparison trap.
Yeah.
That person's doing it faster. I feel like I should be as fast as that person. I'm going to do it faster.
Yeah. And I think that like, you know, to an extent, this is a fantastic thing. And this happens a lot too, especially with running groups, right? Like, or if you have running friends that you start running with, like you start comparing yourself to other people, or you start to notice like kind of where you fall in the group, right? Like, are you up at the front with the, you know, people that are faster in the group, or are you kind of like somewhere in the middle, or are you kind of pulling up the rear? Like, where are you? Because I know that like a lot of people that come to us are like, I feel like I'm always slowing people down. Like that's, I think a big motivation for people wanting to get faster is that they run with other people and they don't want to slow their friends down, or they don't want to be the ones at the back of the pack.
Yeah, you bring an interesting one with running groups, because you kind of have to like find your spot inside of the group.
Yeah.
And one of the first runners we coached way back in my very early days of high school coaching, she started running, and basically the girls pack broke into two groups. And it was like, well, I could go with these ones who are the fastest girls on varsity, or I could go with those ones who took a walking break as soon as they turned right out of the school parking lot and the coach couldn't see them anymore.
Right, which is about a quarter mile for those of you that don't know the school that we coach at.
And she made the choice to head with the girls that were the fastest girls on the team. And within a week, she was the fastest girl on the team.
Right.
So like it's kind of a big choice to her, but she had to decide, where do I fall on it? Am I going to choose faster, or am I going to choose the walking break?
Yeah. Why do you think, I mean, so I think that that's definitely one reason, right? Like, why do people actually want to get faster? Number one is because they're comparing themselves to someone else or some like other people in their running group, and they want to be able to keep up with people, right? Like, we're talking about real life runners, not we are assuming here that you don't get into running in that competitive lifestyle, like in high school cross country, right? Because if you get into running, then it's like automatically embedded in your head, right? That
faster.
You have to get
There's
faster.
A hierarchy on the team.
Exactly.
What number runner am I?
Right. But assuming that you start running like later in life, not on a competitive team, what are other motivations that you think that like would cause someone to want to run faster?
I mean, I think the best possible answer is curiosity, but I feel like comparison is often an early indicator.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, do you think that most people actually go to curiosity though?
Not quickly.
I don't think so, because I know I did it. Like,
no,
I just
you did not.
And I'm gonna, talk a little bit more about this later in the episode, but like, I just was like, well, I'm not a good runner. Like, you just like label yourself, or I'm a slow runner. I'm a like you start to label yourselves very quickly on, I think, like, especially when you start to try to run faster and it's really not working out for you. Like, maybe you try to start doing some of the common things that we're going to talk about today, and you start trying to get faster and it's not working, or
it's certainly not working quick enough for you.
Or maybe you start to get faster for like a little bit and then and then stops, like you stop getting faster, right? And that's where a lot of people start to fall into the traps that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, but I think that the comparison is a big one. Just I want to see if I can get faster, and then you're stuck in that like, all right, how do I do it? Which does not necessarily lead to the best results, because you might just try impulsively to just go faster with the hope of getting faster. Yeah, which is not really the best plan.
Which we're going to talk about today. And so I think it's like, you either have friends that are runners or family members that are runners that you're like, well, if she can do it that fast, I sure as heck better, do it faster than that.
I mean, heck, before I hit a team, I was running with my dad, and it was like, well, I mean, he's old, so I should be able to beat him. That was my thought. I believe he was essentially my age now.
Oh, so don't do that to us. Like, I know, like when reality actually hits, it's kind of crazy, but like, yeah. So I think that that's one. And then the other would be like someone that just started recreationally running and then they just do a 5K. Right. Yeah. And so they throw themselves in the middle of a 5K, and now all of a sudden they're comparing themselves to everyone else around them.
Well, you also, when you throw yourself into any race, you now have a number assoned with you
and a ranking.
Sure,
right?
There's
like
a ranking.
There's age group rankings for a lot of them, and they'll post them up, and people are over there like, I mean, now people are looking at their phones,
of
but
course.
Like the best is like when people used to gather by the
sandwich board,
the sandwich boards.
Try and find yourself on there. Yeah, but the results get there. They're visual. You can see it. And if it's connected to a number, I mean, the ranking's one thing that leads to some quick comparison, but connected to a number is then like, so I am a 27.5 minute 5K runner. And then you get
what does that mean?
Right. You get a feeling about that. Like, I wonder if I could be a 26-minute 5K runner. Well, at least I'm not the 29-minute, or like everybody's going to have that thing, because that thought around 27 is going to be the same thought the person at like 35 is having, and the same thought that the person at 16 is having.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, this is where I am based off of what I just did. I have a data point. And now I'm going to have some feelings about that and decide whether I'm happy with it or I would like to make that number smaller.
Right. Because I think that like all of us as runners have a natural ability, right? Like there is some level of natural ability to us as runners. Like you, I would say, have a greater natural ability when it comes to running than I do. Like you are just a naturally faster runner. Like for Kevin, and obviously there's both nature and nurture going on here, right? There is the natural ability, and then there is how you train, right? That will actually make you faster or slower or not make progress at all.
Sure. It's like the Wayne Gretzky analogy, like phenomenal hockey player, gifted at that. But if his dad didn't create the environment around him where he could have thrived in hockey, would he have ever been a phenomenal hockey player?
Right. Well, so I think like that all of us have some sort of natural ability. And then it's just a matter of like what we decide to do with that and how we decide to train, whether or not we actually can get faster or do get faster, because I believe that everyone can get faster if you train the right way. And if you avoid some of these common traps that we're going to be talking about today, I 100% believe that everyone could get faster, because I am living proof of it. And we've got also hundreds of other runners that we've coached that are living proof of it. But like me, I know this, of myself, because I definitely pigeonholed myself. I always told myself, like, I'm not a good runner. I'm just a slow runner. Like I was always, when we had to run the like 1 mile or the 2 mile in like volleyball for conditioning, I was like, near the back, like, cause I was just like, oh, I'm just not a good runner. I'm a heck of a good volleyball player, but I'm not a good runner. Thank God I didn't choose cross country.
Well, you also probably were back there, one, saying I'm not a good runner, and two, what is the point of this? This sucks.
It's the worst.
We're on a small volleyball court. Why am I running 2 miles?
This makes no sense.
This seems completely ridiculous. So you're throwing all of these negative thoughts at it. Now, obviously you're not going to be excelling at that thing, because you're telling yourself you're not good and it's pointless of what you're doing.
Right.
It's a bad setup.
It's a bad combination. So understanding that all of us can get faster. And yes, my thoughts were very crappy back then. And since I've cleaned those up and gotten to that place of curiosity, really, that was the biggest place that I got to that really opened up a new door in my running. It's like, I wonder if I could get faster. Like, and that was, I remember when I first started to actually follow a plan, and started to actually train with some sort of purpose. Like I was kind of like, I wonder if I could get faster, And once I did that, I just dropped, I followed a plan for a 5K and dropped 2 minutes off my 5K time, which was like insane after just like a couple of months. So it is possible for you if you train in the right way. But before we get into that, let's talk about 3 of the most common myths that we see runners making. I shouldn't say myths that they're making. Some of the 3 most common mistakes that runners make because of these beliefs that are actually not very true. Like they're true in some circumstances, but we're going to talk about the nuance of that today.
That's the thing. We're going to discuss the gray area, because they sound true, because they all are sort of partially slightly true
to an extent. Yeah. Well, that's going to show you that nothing's black and white, right? Like there's always this huge amount of gray area, and that's where we like to live in a lot of different ways.
I know, but we should be more controversial here on the podcast, because I think that will definitely ramp up our listenership.
Oh, is that it? We just have to be super polarizing.
All black and white polarized. And we're going to get to polarized training in a second.
All right. So number one, mistake number one that a lot of people make when they're trying to get faster is that they think that running faster will make me faster, right? If I just push a little bit harder, I will get faster. So what happens is a lot of times people go out and just every day, they just try to run a little bit faster. They try to push a little bit harder. If that loop that loop that you run around your house, if that took you 33 minutes last week or a couple days ago, you're going to try to do it in 32 minutes this week. You just try to keep pushing it a little bit more.
Right. And so that's the classic, every run needs to be slightly faster, or whatever. It's like a 3, a 4, or 5 mile run, everything's a little bit faster. Maybe you're already trying to do speed work and you're doing things like hill repeats. Like, all right, well, I went up that hill in 45 seconds. So now I better do it in 44, or I'm clearly slowing down.
Yeah.
If you hit the same hill repeat over and over and over again, say you're doing it like 8 times, they're going to get slower. Or maybe you're hitting the same time, but they're getting a whole heck of a lot harder.
Yeah.
And if you go really hard on the first one, they're just actually going to get slower. It's not a sign that your body is in fact slowing down. It's just that you're kind of getting tired from the workout. It's how it works.
It's how it works. And so it makes sense why people think this. Like, I completely understand why you might think this. Like, I know that I thought this for a while because, growing up, we're told that pushing harder is the key to success. Like, it makes sense, right? To get faster, I should just push a little bit harder. I should just try to run faster. If I want to get faster, I should just try to run faster, right? And especially me, coming from that competitive sports background, like I was talking about, I played volleyball, basketball, and softball. Like, I was taught to always be pushing myself. Like, and if you weren't giving your all, then you weren't doing enough, right? It's kind of goes back to that whole like no pain, no gain mentality that a lot of, you see on the motivational posters all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, if it says it on a poster, especially if there's a cat clinging to like a ledge, then clearly it must be true.
A cat clinging to a ledge?
Isn't that the inspirational poster where the cat just keep your grip going? There's a cat poster.
A cat poster.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Maybe
I don't know the cat poster.
All right, fine.
We're gonna have to find it now.
But is no pain, no gain, no pain, no gain? Is that a quote that we can give to like Confucius or Aristotle? Because when in doubt, I think that's also a good way to go.
I don't see that happening.
Confucius says no pain, no gain. I think that's spot on.
Confucius says, right. But the issue with this thinking is that this is not how distance running actually works, right? Like,
I thought it was too.
Well, see, this is the interesting thing, right? Because I came from a non-running background, but you came from a running background.
Yeah. But when I was competitive running with a very, very good coach, I still, every time we would go out and run, we'd have like workouts, like speed workouts twice a week, but then we had easy runs. And I pushed the easy runs because I was pretty confident that the way that I was going to get to be the fastest guy on the team was to just run faster on my easy runs.
Even though your coach told you not to?
Oh, every single time. Like before we would take off on an easy run, Brown, easy. An easy pace, slow it down, nice and easy, should be comfortable the whole time.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then I would just take off.
Right. Because in your 14-year-old mind, you knew more than the
multiple California state winning coach. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
but isn't that interesting? But like, okay, so that's you as a 14-year-old. So obviously, like, we as 40-year-olds or 50-year-olds that have been living our life for a long time, right? We hear these things from running coaches like us that are telling you slow down to get faster. And they're like, yeah, no, that's not true. Like, clearly that's not going to work for me. If I just keep pushing harder, then I'm going to get faster. These people don't know what they're talking about.
Okay. So here's the issue is it does work at first.
Yeah.
So when I first started running, I pushed harder on all my easy days. So I would push extra hard on workout days, and then I would push harder on easy days. Now I was 14, and as you can obviously tell by my build, I was just jacked full of testosterone. So I could also recover faster than I do right now. So it was okay from a physical not breaking down my body that I pushed a little bit too hard.
Yeah.
And as a new runner, turns out you can do just about anything. And you get better. Like that's the glory of being a high school freshman getting into cross country is it doesn't matter what your coach does to you.
Yeah.
You're probably going to be better at the end of the season than you were at the start of the season, unless you get hurt.
Right.
I didn't get hurt. Therefore I was faster, which then justified in my mind.
I was going to say, that reinforced your belief.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So clearly the answer is push it really freaking hard every day. So by the time I was the senior leader on my team, literally before almost every single easy run, coach would send us out and then he would grab me by the shirt and be like, Brown, easy. And it got to the point where he would make me run with other people on the team because if I went solo, I would push it too fast.
So even by your senior year, this still hadn't gotten through to you.
So I would have some easy days, but
Yeah.
I still felt that I would be better off if some of my easy days were at least towards a moderate effort.
Yeah. So you still felt like if you were going easy and you weren't pushing yourself, that you weren't doing enough,
Right.
right? That you were like leaving something on the table.
Something on the table.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and so this is so interesting, right? Because when we look at like elite runners like Kipchoge, right? The fastest
Sure.
marathon runner in history, he runs most of his runs at an easy pace, right? Like
Yes.
we know now scientifically from so many experts, so many elite runners, like there's a reason that they call it the Kenyan Shuffle, right?
Yes.
Like Kenyans are known to be some of the best marathon runners in history. And you want to explain the Kenyan Shuffle, kind of what that that is for anybody that doesn't know?
So recovery runs, and it's funny to watch. I actually follow Kipchoge on Instagram. He posts every once in a while. There's a lot of ads that he does for his sponsors and stuff, but he'll take videos of like him training with his teammates, and they're like, oh yeah, went off for our afternoon jog. And you're like, okay, funny, afternoon jog. And then they show the video, they're going like 9-8 minute pace, which depending on who our listeners are, that might be super fast. But for a man who can run a marathon averaging 4:30 per mile, an 8 or 9 minute pace is essentially walking.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes slower than his marathon time.
Yes.
Like that's
4 minutes per mile.
Right.
And the thing about the Kenyan Shuffle is it does gradually get faster over the course of the run. And so they often end up finishing, and this is where people get thrown. I'm convinced this is where people get thrown. They'll end up finishing close to like 6 minute pace.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, oh, well, if they're going at 6 minute pace, that means that I should be going fairly aggressively. Not realizing that 6 minute pace is still 1.5 minutes per mile slower than he can race 26 miles.
Yeah.
That is still a remarkably comfortable pace.
Yeah.
It's just that it starts even slower than that.
Right. Which is why numbers are totally relative, right? Like, you know, what's easy for Kipchoge is not the same thing as what's easy for me, obviously,
Very
or
true.
what's easy for you. You know, like you're closer to him than I am. Like I look at those numbers and I'm just like, this is not even human. You know, like I don't even understand. Like sometimes when I'll be doing speed work, I'll be hitting like quarter repeats and I'll like look at my watch and I'll be really proud of it. I'm like, oh, that's fun. Kevin runs a whole marathon at faster than this. Like at this pace. No, actually faster than this one.
Right. So you do some, I mean, we're all human. We all get stuck with this comparison.
This is what we do. Like,
so you compare to me, I compare to,
Kipchoge.
I try not to compare to Kipchoge, but I compare to, certainly some of the elite American men that I follow online, or some of the elite American women who would still toast me in any workout. I'm not keeping up with them. They're like 220. I can run 230 highs somewhere in that range.
Something.
Yes.
230 something.
Put a question mark on that last digit there.
Yeah.
But still, everybody's paces are relative. So when coaches say you need to run easy in order to get faster, that's easy for you. That's not somebody else's easy pace. That's what actually feels easy to your body.
Exactly. And so this is why, pushing harder and just trying to run faster in order to get faster does not work. Like even the elites know that pushing harder on every run is just a recipe for injury, for burnout, and for plateau, for really just not making progress, right? I think that's what some of the things that you faced finally, like in high school, is that like you got to a point where you just weren't getting any better.
Right. I mean, then especially as that carried over to college, and then my mileage increased, and I was still trying to push all the time. And I wasn't even trying to push. I was just trying to hang on for dear life because I was walking onto a very high caliber team. And so I ended up having to push super hard on all of them, which then just broke me.
Yeah. Well, and that's really what ends up happening, to so many runners that believe that, I have to just run faster if I want to get faster. They just keep pushing harder. So if you just keep pushing harder or just trying to run faster on every single run, you are likely, very, very likely that you're just going to get injured, right? Because your training is not balanced and you just end up pushing harder and breaking your body down and then not recovering, and then breaking your body down and then not recovering. There's only so much that you can do that before your body just is like, nope, I give up.
Right.
Like I'm waving the white flag. It's time that you're now injured or sick.
at first you might get some actual results out of this,
Yeah.
maybe, but very quickly, especially the longer and longer you do it, you're essentially just keep digging into your body and never building it back up. And that's just, you're going to get broken at some point.
Right, exactly. So instead of thinking that you just need to go out and run faster on every single run, what you actually need to be doing is what's called polarized training, which is, where the majority of your runs feel easy and then some of your running feels harder, right? And so when we talk about at the beginning, the kind of the gray area, like it's true, like pushing harder and running faster will get you faster as long as that's only a little bit of what you're doing and that most of your running is at that easy pace.
Right. And then, what hard running is also a relative thing.
Yes.
Like you don't have to go nice and easy and all out sprints. Like that's also not as far apart as it needs to be. And it gets a little nuanced here and probably beyond how detailed we want to go into on the podcast right now. But the point is that faster does not require all out sprints. If you're training for anything above like a mile, nothing should be so emphasized on super high end all out sprints.
Yeah.
It's sprinkled in. It's like, it's a little extra seasoning on top and not like, oh, well, I'll put some salt on it and it'll taste better. No. Like the super spicy cayenne that you're putting, like it's a very delicate add-on when you're putting sprints into a training plan.
Like even to the other end of that it should also not be all tempo running.
This is
right.
Also
like
very
it
true.
Should not all just be like, oh, I'm just going to go on a tempo run. Like you do need some of that higher end speed if you want to get faster. You know, like tempo running is huge. It's very important, but like same thing goes there, right? So do you want to keep thinking that running should feel hard to be effective, or, that you need to keep pushing harder? Or are you willing to be open to the idea that running can actually feel easy most of the time and you can get faster in the process? Because that's where we like to live. And that's where we've seen tons of amazing results for both us and for hundreds of runners that we've been able to help. All right. Myth number 2. Okay. Mistake number 2 that we see a lot of runners make. Okay. So myth number 1 was running faster will make you faster. Mistake number 2 is running more will get you faster, right? I just need to run more, right? Like if
just keep doing it,
more is better, right? Like if I just run more, then I will automatically get faster. All right. So for those of you that are watching on our Zoom recording, you've probably noticed that it's now darker and we're both wearing jackets and sweaters. So
because it's Florida cold.
And so we had to pause our recording and go make dinner and do the parent thing. And now we're back and our house is cold at night because of the air conditioning. So here we are. Okay. So we're getting back to myth number 2. So let's get this recording going. And all right. So back to myth number 2, which is if you run more, actually, wait, I'm going to stop this. Where I'm like recording at the same time here on our podcast versus here. So, okay, let's go back. Ready?
Yes.
All right. So mistake number 2 is if you want to get faster, you just have to run more.
Clearly run more.
All right. So running more has to be the answer to getting faster, right? People think that if you want to get faster, you just have to add mileage.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you do anything more, then you'll naturally just get better at that thing.
Right.
Like that's kind of, I think the background behind where running more comes in. If I just keep doing a thing, I'll eventually get better at that, which is not true. If you keep doing a thing inappropriately, you'll get better at doing it inappropriately.
Right. So we want to kind of look at this, like, will adding mileage really make you a better runner? Right. And, I can totally understand why people think this way, right? Because you always hear about the 10,000 hour rule, right? Like
it's a good rule.
You've probably heard people talk about this rule of like, if you want to get better at something, if you want to master something, you just have to do it for 10,000 hours, right? Yes. And then all of a sudden you will become an expert at something, right? If you do it more, you'll get better at it. And it makes sense. Like more is better in some circumstances, right? But a lot of people like to point out the flaws with the 10,000 hour rule, right? Because I know, which book was it? I think it was Atomic Habits. And I think it's been mentioned in a couple other books that I've read before too, of like 10,000 hours of practice is just more practice. And if you're practicing something incorrectly, then you're going to master that thing incorrectly, right? Like,
Right, you'll master the wrong way of doing it. You get really efficient at doing the move, however incorrectly you're practicing.
right. So better is not better, or more is not better. Better is better, right?
Yes.
And that's where a lot of people talk about focused practice, and that's one of the things he goes
Deliberate
into.
practice.
Deliberate practice. That's one of the things he goes into in the book, which is fantastic. So I want us to just like think about this idea of the 10,000 hour rule for a second, and I like to think about planting a seed,
Sure.
right? So we all know that if you plant a seed needs water to sprout and grow, right? So if water helps a seed grow, then will adding more water make that seed grow faster or bigger?
I mean, not if you're already giving it the right amount of water.
Well, and that's where it comes in, right? It's like, so if we keep adding water, like, will it keep getting bigger, or are there other things that also contribute to how that seed develops, like sunshine and the soil and the temperature,
The size of the pot that it's inside of,
the type of seed it is?
Sure.
Right? Like, all of these things contribute to how big the seed, or how, whether or not that seed actually sprouts, and then how big that plant actually grows.
Right. Otherwise, you may get to a point where you just keep dumping water on it, and now you've drowned the seed.
Yeah.
You've essentially just killed the seed, and it never is going to sprout at all.
Exactly. So depending on what type of seed it is, it needs the right balance of water and sunshine and soil and all the other things that are going to help it grow. But going back to that, like, what type of seed is it? Like, I think that is very true for us as runners as well. Like, the same thing goes for us as runners. Like, we need the right balance of several things, like running, strength training, recovery, nutrition, all of these things that we like to talk about here on the podcast. And inside our Real Life Runners Training Academy, we coach people to know exactly how to, incorporate this into a plan that works for you. But we need all of these things to help us develop into that stronger and faster runner. But it ultimately goes back to that seed, right? Like, what type of seed is this? Is this a succulent? Is it a sunflower seed? Is it a cucumber seed? Like, what is it what kind of seed is it? And that's why it's so important to know what kind of seed it is, AKA what kind of runner you are, like who you are as a runner. What are your goals? What is your body? What is your lifestyle like? What are your goals, right? You need to find the right balance in a way that works for you.
Right. Because at the core of this, sometimes running more is in fact the best answer.
Yeah, like for you that's training for 100-mile race,
sure,
you need to run more.
For someone who's currently running like 5 miles a week, they can probably get in better shape by running 10 miles a week.
Right.
But once you reach a certain point, then much like your seed analogy, you get to the point where you've overwatered.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are professional marathoners who peak at like 70 miles a week, 80 miles a week. And there are other marathoners who peak at like 140. Mm-hmm. And they're running comparable race times.
Yeah.
It's just they're different athletes, even though they're literally training for the same race and they're running similar times. They get to the end result in different ways because they've figured out what system works the best for them.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's the thing, is like, if this was true, right? If more was better, then elite runners who literally run for a living, right? That's what they do. They go out and they run their morning run, and then they come home and they eat and they take a nap, and then they go out and they run again. Like, some of them run like 2 to 3 times a day, right? And then they have their strength sessions and all these different things. But if just adding more mileage would make them automatically faster, then all they would be doing would be spending all their time running. Like, how much mileage can I do? And we all know that there's an upper limit at some point, like, and that upper limit is different for everyone, right? Like, some people are able to run, like you said, 100 miles a week. Some people are only able to run 20 miles a week, 30 miles a week, 40 miles a week, depending on who you are, what your goals are like, what your lifestyle is like, all these things, right? But ultimately there's that upper limit. You can't just keep adding mileage more and more and more and more.
But they tried to do this a while ago. Like, for a while, like, the key coaching concept was just add more mileage. Like, the best coaches in the world, their training philosophy was, how many miles can we put into this person before they break? And they had runners, like Olympic caliber runners, that were doing 200 plus mile weeks. They literally were just going out and running. And then other coaches were like, maybe if we change like effort levels, maybe if we add in strength training, maybe if we make them sprint up hills, and they changed some of the exercise stimulus and managed to reduce some of the volume. reduce the chance that they were getting hurt
Mhm.
and still get the same performances out of it. So this is a key. Is part of the issue of just throwing more and more miles is the way to find your upper limit is sometimes, well, I could run this and I didn't get hurt, and then I tried to run this and I did get hurt. So
Yeah.
apparently I may have found my limit at this current strength level. That's not really a safe way to test your upper limits.
Mhm.
Like, you want to be real gradual about it, make sure that you're building in all these other areas of strength so that you're capable of running higher mileages, if that's even something that is interesting for you.
Yeah. But like, if you decide like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to keep running more, right? Like, then if you keep running more and don't make and follow a plan that's right for you, ultimately what's going to happen is your progress is going to stall and you're probably going to get injured, right? Or just burn out from all of those miles. You're just going to be exhausted all the time.
Right. If you focus on mileage is the answer, then all of the other things,
Mhm.
from recovery to nutrition to, strength training, but like the stuff that people don't even think to put on a plan, like, am I sleeping enough? That'll start sliding away,
Right.
because in your head, it's more important to get in the extra couple of miles
Mhm.
than the extra, hour of sleep.
Yeah.
It's more important that my mileage hits whatever number you have made up.
Right, exactly. So instead of thinking that you just need to keep adding miles, you have to understand, like what we said before, more is not better necessarily. Better is better. Like, what is right for you? Just like the seed, you need to create the ideal environment for you to flourish. It's about doing the right things for you, your body, your goals, and your lifestyle ultimately. Like, how do you want to live, right? Like,
Yes.
how much time do you want to put into your training? Because it's a mix of all of these various things, and creating a personalized plan that works for you and also that you enjoy doing, right? Like, if you're the kind of person that loves high mileage, like we have runners on our team that love the mileage, right? And so we have higher mileage plans for them. And then we have other runners that are like, I want to run what I need to run in order to achieve my goal, right?
Yes.
And then I also like to do yoga, and I also like to do biking or swimming or other types of cross training, or they just don't want to run that much also.
Yeah.
Like, they just might have a really busy job and kids and other things to take care of. So it's like, I want to achieve my goals and I want to do what's necessary to achieve that goal, but I don't need to do more than
I
that.
certainly don't need more than that, because I'm
Exactly.
not getting the extra enjoyment out of it.
Right. And so that's why it's so important to really understand you as a runner and like what you like, what you don't like, and then ultimately find that balance in that training plan that has a correct like mix of things for you.
Right. Okay. So mistake number one, running faster always to get faster. That does not work. You have to not always run fast.
Right.
Mistake number two, just running more. If I just
hoping you'll get faster.
Yes, I think that's really the method behind that. Like, running faster to get faster makes some logical sense.
Mhm.
Running more and hoping, I think, is the second one.
It is, but again, it goes back to that, like we've been told, like if you do something enough, you'll get better at it.
Yes.
Right. So people think, okay, well, if I just keep doing it, then I'll get better at it. I'll become a better runner. And,
Yes.
and people think, okay, better equals faster.
Right.
Right.
Which it does not always work
It's
out that
not.
way.
No.
All right. So mistake number three, weighing less will help you get faster. If I was able to
here's
drop,
a good one.
I know this one's, we might get some pushback on this one. Weighing
I'm ready
less
for it. Bring it.
Is if I could just drop my weight, then I will be able to get faster.
Right. So people think, okay, if I just lose 10 pounds or if I lose 20 pounds, I will be faster. Right. And so I can also see where this makes sense, right?
Sure.
Why people might think this, like, less body mass should mean faster running. It's what people think of when they think of like the typical runner's body. And I'm putting air quotes for those of you that can't see me.
Yeah.
And for those of you that can
large
see me,
air quotes.
like if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening to us on a podcast player, just know that I've been starting to put these podcast episodes up on YouTube. So if you go over to YouTube at Real Life Runners, you can watch us every week with our podcast.
There you
go. So anyway, but when you think about the typical runner's body, when you look at elite marathon runners out there,
Okay.
right? They're all what I would consider thin or slim, right?
Sure.
They don't have a lot of excess body fat.
Right. And
right?
when you see somebody like in the lead group that essentially is the size of most normal like runners walking around on a quote unquote normal, like not your elite looking, more of your like your age group competitive athlete, they look huge standing next to some of the other runners.
Again, the comparison, right? Like, and so, this is what we want to start to, again, let's look at this, right? Is this actually true? Does a lower body weight actually equate to faster times? And there's a couple ways that I want to look at this. Like, number one, does everyone who loses weight automatically get faster? Like, does weight loss always equal faster times? And I would argue no.
I got to say no,
Right? I mean,
pretty easily in that one.
there's got to be at least a few people, right? I mean,
Right.
there's got to be, I'm sure, a lot more than that, but losing weight does not automatically equal faster times.
No. And the thing is, and it leads to a very dangerous path of eating disorders, is sometimes taking a couple pounds off somehow leads to a better result. I believe from like actual straight physics behind it, of you can move a slightly less amount of mass with the same force and you'll end up going faster.
But the problem here is that people think about weight as just weight, right? As pounds, when in reality, that's not really what we want. Like, we as runners, or anyone that's ever wanted to lose weight, like, we think it's about the number on the scale, but it's actually not. It's actually about body fat, right? Like, we want to lose body fat. Like, if you say you want to lose weight, you probably don't want to lose muscle. Like, you probably want to lose body fat. You probably don't want to lose bone density, right? Which also contributes to your weight.
No one sits around and goes, you know what I think would really help me be a better runner is if I had less dense bones.
Right. But this is what happens when people restrict and diet and don't eat enough and don't fuel their bodies well. They don't just lose body fat. They lose muscle mass and they lose bone density. And this is what causes a lot of other hormonal problems and other health problems in runners that are trying to maintain this very thin body.
Right. So like the worst thing that could happen here is you lose a couple pounds, you get a positive race result where you're like, oh, wow, I lost a couple of pounds and I did go faster. And you somehow make the connection that one automatically caused the other, rather than stating that they may have just correlated. Maybe you just happened to have set up and had a great race that day and it had nothing to do with how much you weighed. Okay? The weight could be completely irrelevant. You could have put that weight back on and still run the exact same time, maybe even faster. Unclear, because you can't go back and run the exact same thing twice. But people will lose a couple pounds and run faster and think, oh, that's the answer. And then try and keep dropping the number even more, as though somehow just continuing to drop the weight is going to make your times get faster and faster.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing
that's not how that's going to work.
It's the same thing you did in high school, right? It's like when something happens and you think this is the cause of it, then it reinforces that belief in your head, right?
Yes. Correlation, not causation.
Yeah. And this is where we want to just start questioning these things. And that's really the point of this episode, is like helping you guys start to just look at these things, because we as humans, we form beliefs so many times without even thinking about them consciously, right? Like, this thing happened and this thing happened, they happen at the same time, therefore, this is the cause, right? And so this is where we want to kind of start to look at this, right? Has there ever been a runner who gained weight and then ran faster?
100%.
100%.
I would argue most runners coming off of an eating disorder fall right in that category.
Totally.
I mean, you're going to get plenty of other runners in there, but people who, and I mean, I went to college with people with this, and I've heard of plenty of podcasts with some professional runners out there who came back from eating disorders and were like, I thought I was doing well, and then I actually got treatment for my disordered eating. I was forced to basically put on 10 pounds, and suddenly I could train at levels that I had not been able to train at before, with consistency that I'd never had before. And that's what led to the breakthrough performances.
Yeah. I mean, Molly Seidel is very open about this, right? Like, she struggled with an eating disorder and she had to go get treatment for it. And now, like, after her treatment for her eating disorder and gaining weight, now she just won the bronze medal in the Olympic marathon, right? Like, and I love and I appreciate so many of these strong female runners. There's not as many on the male side that have started talking about this yet, but I'm sure they're out there. It's just,
it's not as bold of a conversation.
It's more taboo, I think. It's like, it's very interesting what's happening, but I think it's so powerful to see these people coming out and talking about their struggles that they've had, and, helping us understand as real life runners, like, what we see happening, it's just kind of like, it's Instagram and social media, right? Like, what you see on someone's Instagram feed is not everything. Like, that's not exactly how their life looks. You're getting like the highlight reel.
Yes, you
right?
get the highlight reel. This is something I just saw today on Twitter of like, don't ever post your easy days on Strava. Of like, no one wants the judgment coming from an easy day post on Strava. Oh, how slow are you going on that day?
Right. But going back to this belief, right? Let's look at some sprinters, right? Like I just want us again, let's keep questioning this belief. Is it actually true? Does a lower body weight actually equate to faster times? Let's look at sprinters, right? Sprinters actually build muscle and intentionally gain weight in order to get faster.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Like they have to bulk, they gain weight and then like turn that weight into muscle, and that helps them get faster. And like I understand that it's like a different distance, and people will be like, well, a sprinter and a distance runner aren't the same thing. Like I understand that, but it's still the point of, does gaining weight or does losing weight automatically make you faster? And the answer is no.
No, definitely not. And I mean, you can also just logically draw this out to a conclusion.
Right.
If you lost, let's make some easy numbers here. If I lost 5 pounds and I dropped a minute in my 5K and I lost another 5 pounds, I would obviously drop another minute. So if I dropped another 5 pounds, I would drop another minute.
Mhm.
Eventually I'd be running negative times and I would weigh 0 pounds. Like the eventual like linear conclusion here, it does not play out.
It doesn't play out. Right. And so I'm going to offer one more thing for us to think about.
Okay.
If we think about a car, okay, if the frame of a car is lighter, if the frame of a car weighs less, does that automatically make the car faster?
Probably not.
No.
And there's a few things that go into how fast the car is going to be able to go.
Of course, like number one being the size and the power of the engine, right? Like how big is the engine? How powerful is that engine? Number two, the fuel efficiency, right? Like how efficient is that engine at taking the fuel and converting it into energy? Same thing goes for our body, right? Like our body, like how efficient is our body at producing energy from the glycogen and the fat that we have stored on our bodies.
Right. And if you're going at faster speeds, then how efficient is our body at getting rid of waste material or even converting waste material like the lactate? Our body has a system where we can then what we've been told for decades there. I mean, I remember my high school coach saying you got to make sure that you flush the lactic acid out of your legs, which is totally not a thing.
Yeah.
But your body actually takes the lactic acid, converts it to lactate, and then there's another method that it converts that into fuel to continue you running.
Right.
This happens at much faster speeds, but your body has to get good at it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't just naturally do that. So you have to train yourself to use all sorts of different fuel sources when you're running at the really high speeds.
Exactly. Right. And so what we want to show you guys and this kind of goes back to that, the eating disorder issue is that like, if you're trying to lose weight in order to get faster, if that's the sole goal, like this really is a recipe for disaster for a lot of people. Because like we said, there's always some sort of endpoint, right? Like losing weight does not automatically correlate with faster times. And what I see that is even worse is when runners try to lose weight and train for a race or train to try to get faster at the same time. And this is just awful. It's a recipe for disaster because they're constantly exhausted because they're not fueling themselves, right? They're trying to lose weight. So they're restricting what they're eating. They're not refueling their body. And so they're just tired all the time. They're not improving, right? They're not actually getting faster because they're not giving their body the fuel that they need.
So there's never recovery.
There's never recovery, right? They end up getting injured because again, your body will break itself down. Like if you don't have the fuel in order to do the activities that you need to do, like, and this is one of the big things that Kevin has been, dealing with his 100-mile race coming up that we've talked about a couple episodes back, is like making sure he has enough body fat and glycogen stores on his body so that he doesn't just start breaking down muscle and bone.
Because that's eventually what's going to happen.
Right.
Is if your body runs out of fuel, you don't keep putting more fuel into the fire, it will find fuel. If you are going to keep forcing it to do the activity, it'll find fuel. So it'll start eating your own muscles because your muscles hang on to the glycogen, like it's stored in your liver and your muscles. So once it's burned the glycogen out of your muscles, your body will just start eating its muscles then. And then it's going to start trying to suck nutrients out of your bones because you're not putting any nutrients in through food. So it's just going to start draining them from your bone. Now you've got less dense bone and your muscles are breaking down because your body is eating them.
Right.
This does not seem like a great way to get faster.
So you get injured, right? And then here's the kicker that like will just drive people up the wall. You end up not getting faster, which which is what you're trying to do. And you also end up not losing weight. And a lot of people actually end up gaining weight in this process. Like if you're trying to lose weight and train for a race or train to get faster at the same time, you actually end up gaining weight because your body is just holding on to whatever it can, because it knows it's not getting enough fuel.
Right. Because it thinks that it's in starvation mode.
Yeah.
And so it tries to hold on to any little bit that it can to make sure that it can survive, like, survival mechanisms, like your core body functions. It needs to hold on to the fuel for those.
And then what happens is that your metabolism actually slows down, right? Because your body is so smart and so efficient. It knows, okay, well, if this is the level of activity I am being asked to perform at, and this is the amount of fuel I'm getting, I better become way more efficient. And so your body starts burning less calories and less fuel with every workout that you're doing.
Yep.
So then that's why people like end up like getting into this cycle of like they cut their calories and then they like lose weight for a little bit, and then your metabolism adjusts every time. Our metabolism is always going to adjust. And so then they're like, oh, well, now I'm just plateaued. Or maybe they notice again that they're gaining weight, even though they're eating the same amount.
Yep.
They're gaining weight now. And they're like, well, I better just keep cutting, right? And they keep cutting. So this is exactly like the opposite of what we were talking about before with adding mileage. You can't just keep adding mileage ad infinitum. The same thing, you can't just keep cutting calories ad infinitum. Like at some point your body will stop functioning.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you cannot like cutting calories, trying to lose weight, by restricting your fuel, by restricting your food and training for race at the same time. Please don't do it. Okay. It is not a good idea. I will tell you that right now. Train in a way that is right for your body. Right. And so I want to ask you guys now, like, do you want to keep believing this, with everything that we just said? Like, do you still want to believe that, like, if I weigh less, then I'll probably run faster? Like, it's not the same thing. The two, they may be connected, they may be related,
Sure,
right? But it's not a cause and effect of relationship.
No, there was just a study I heard about on a podcast, I think this morning, maybe yesterday. And it was with ultra runners. So like people running really, really long mileage, that they found that BMI, your like body mass index, which has its own issues to it, but essentially how big the runners were, had no predictive ability on how fast runners would be in 100-mile races.
Ooh.
Like none at all.
Yeah.
Like the lighter runner, the bigger runner, it mattered not at all. There were all sorts of other crazy things that did matter, but weight was not one of them in the slightest.
There you go. There's another proof right there. All right. So those are the 3 typical mistakes that we see a lot of runners making. But we've got a bonus.
Excellent.
Okay. There's one more bonus thing that I wanted to talk about, and that is how quickly we like to label ourselves as humans. Okay. So 3, the 3 of the common mistakes people make when trying to get faster. Let's just review real quick. Number 1, running faster will make me faster. Number 2, running more will make me faster. And number 3, losing weight will make me faster.
Sure.
Right. And hopefully by now you guys understand the flaws in those beliefs. And I really want you to at least come away from this episode questioning those things, if those are something that you've believed before. But right now I want to address the idea of like, well, I've tried to get faster and it hasn't worked. Therefore, I'm just a slow runner.
It's that, right? Therefore, it's that automatic conclusion that you've drawn.
Yeah.
It goes back to these 2 things happened. I tried and it didn't work. It's sort of the opposite of, I did lose a couple of pounds and I got faster. I did increase my mileage and I got a little bit faster, cause and effect. I did put forth the effort and I didn't get faster. Therefore, I just can't get faster, period. Right. I'm just slow. Boom, done. Boom.
It's the identity, right? And I totally understand this because I did this for years, right? I just thought I wasn't a good runner. I was a slow runner, right? And I know that you had some different thoughts about this too, right? Like when you would compare yourself to different people that you ran with throughout the years.
I mean, when I was running in college, I definitely had the I'm a slow runner mindset, and
which is crazy compared, like when I look at your times, right? But it's who you were comparing yourself to.
Right. I wasn't comparing myself to even me in high school. Like I was faster than I was in high school, but I was not as fast as the All-Americans that I was running with. I was not as fast as the whole varsity squad that was trying to make nationals every single year. It was a different ball game. And so since that's who my direct right in front of me peers were, like when the people that you're running with on a daily basis are legitimately on paper faster than you, you're going to look at yourself as slow.
Yeah.
whatever the numbers
Well,
are.
and that's really what shows you, I mean, that shows you what slow even means,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because slow is completely subjective and completely
Oh,
arbitrary,
it's completely arbitrary.
right? And like, I truly believe, and I mentioned this earlier, that anyone can be a faster runner, because when I learned how to train in a way that was right for me, then I like blew my PRs out of the water, right? When I
Yeah.
actually just started to get curious, like, I wonder if I could get faster, right? To me, curiosity is such a strong emotion and it's such a strong place to be in, right? Because maybe you think to yourself right now, I'm a slow runner. And if you were to just try to flip your mindset and be like, no, I'm a fast runner, that's too far of a jump.
Yeah.
But what if you're just like, I'm willing to think, or I'm willing to wonder if I could be a faster runner,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's just that sense of curiosity. And it just, again, goes back to that, like, who are you, when you say you're a slow runner, who are you comparing yourself to, right? Slow compared to who? Like, I was comparing myself to like the other runners in the 5Ks, I guess. So I was definitely comparing myself to you, which is just silly,
That was a silly choice.
and like, who are you actually comparing yourself to? And I really want you to just stop and think about that. Like, people are like, well, I'm in the back of the 5K, right? Like, I'm always hoping that I'm not going to be last, right? So therefore, of course, I'm a slow runner.
Right. So you make a very good point here, and it's a small difference. Is you say anybody can be a faster runner. People may have in their head what fast is,
Yeah,
but
just like they have what slow is.
sure, but faster
Yeah.
simply means faster than you currently are.
Mhm.
So if you go out there, you run a race, you got a number associated with it. Faster simply means doing that race faster than you just did it.
Yeah.
It does not necessarily mean going out and winning the race. It doesn't mean you have to hit whatever this like image in your head of fast means. Being faster simply means that you can progress from where you are and end up doing what you're currently doing at faster paces. And that doesn't mean I have to go faster every single day. That means that I can go through like a normal planned out process and actually become a faster runner.
Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of running, right? Is that we're all on our own journey and it's really just you against you.
Mhm.
Like, who else are you competing against?
Yeah.
Like, truly, who else are you competing against? Like, even you that like goes out and tries to win races. Like, when you enter a race, your goal is to win.
Yeah.
Most of the time, right?
Often.
And so, but even then, I often ask Kevin, I'm like, well, do you want to win? And one of his first responses always is, well, I don't know who else is going to be there.
Because
right?
you just never
Because
know who's
you
going to show up.
Right. You never know. So ultimately, even for you, you're still racing yourself, right? You're going out there and you are trying to be the best of you version of you. You're trying to be a faster version of you.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the one race that we had like a lot of people that were down and watching when we ran down in Key West, there was a bunch of like your running group was running in the race. So I saw a bunch of them. We went out to dinner with people the night before. We had friends down that were going to watch and they're like, are you going to win it? I'm like, I have no idea. I'm going to run it as fast as I can, but I don't know who's going to show up.
Yeah.
Like if you go and I'm like, I've looked up previous year's race results. I'm like, I could have won it last year. I could have won it the year before, but the year before that, somebody came in and just like crushed the course.
Yeah.
So who knows who's going to show up on any given race day. So I got to go out there and just run as best as I know that I'm capable of running. At the end of the day, that's all that any of us can really do.
Yep.
We can go out and run as fast as we can. We can go out and do the best that we can on that day. Sometimes that day is not even your day. So maybe you, in fact, are faster, but the clock disagrees with you on that day because it happened to be a bad performance. That doesn't mean that you're a slower runner now. That simply means that that wasn't your day. You could still have actually, based off of the work you put in, be a better runner, be a faster runner. It's just that the clock didn't agree with you. Your body didn't agree. Maybe you ate something funny. Your legs woke up just feeling stiff. Something weird could have happened.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you're just out there trying to see how much you can push on that day.
Yeah. And that's what all of us do. Right. And I think that that's a really important thing to remember, because if you truly believe that you're a slow runner, do you actually think that you're going to do the work to get faster?
No.
Right? Like you just won't. Right. And I think that this is why it always comes down to our thoughts. It always comes down to our thoughts and our beliefs. Like, if we believe that we are a slow runner, we will not do the work to get faster, because there's still going to be a part of us. It's like, what's the point? You're a slow runner. What's the point of you even doing this, right? There's that little voice in the back of your head that's always there. All of us have that voice. No matter how fast or slow you think you have that voice. I have that voice. Kevin has that voice. I'm sure Kipchoge has that voice. I'm sure he's done lots and lots of mental training to like try to quiet that voice as much as possible,
definitely.
but it's still there.
Yeah.
Right. Like even like billionaires, millionaires, like all these people that I learned from, in like the personal development world as well, they all have that voice. And it's just about who can silence that voice the longest and who can keep going, even though that voice is there. Right.
Yeah.
So if you do have that idea of like, I'm just a slow runner, I want you to start believing or getting curious that, start believing that you can get faster. Start believing in the possibility. Maybe if I trained a little bit differently, I could get faster, because your belief has to come first. And maybe, like I said, maybe you can't jump all the way to like, I'm a fast runner, right? I'm going to win races. Maybe that's not where you even need to get to, right? But what if you just thought, what if I could get faster, right? What if I could get a little bit faster than I am right now?
Right.
Start
So
there.
like you like to take the word slow out of I'm a slow runner, and you like, if you say you're a slow runner, then you're stuck. But what if you literally can even hold that identity? Because it's tough for people to let go of that sometimes. What if you can say I'm a slow runner, but I can get faster? Like, what if you could just add that onto it? Maybe I'll be just a little bit faster from where I am. Whether you consider that still a slow runner or not a slow runner, could you get faster from where you are? And yes, I think you could all get faster from where you are.
Yeah, because, ultimately our thoughts and our beliefs drive our actions, and then our actions give us the results that we have in our life, in our running, for everything, right? So you have to be willing to believe it first, or at least be open to that possibility, right? So after everything that we've given you tonight or today, or whenever you're listening to this, like we're finishing our recording in the evening here. Do you want to believe that you can be a faster runner? That's really what I want to ask you. Do you want to believe that you can be a faster runner?
Yes.
Because
I
all
feel
of
like
us,
yes is the answer to that one.
yes, scream it. But we have kids sleeping in the rooms behind us, possibly. Either that or they're just up listening to us record. But
gaining life lessons.
But ultimately, yeah, you have to believe it first. So we want to show you guys how to do this. We want to show you how to start breaking down these thoughts and beliefs that are hidden and getting in your way of becoming the faster runner that you want to be. And we've started to do that with this podcast, and we're going to continue that in our free 5-day challenge that we're running next week. So May 9th through the 13th, we're running our next free 5-day challenge. It's a free training that we love to do a few times a year. And we're going to help you understand how to run faster without pushing harder. And then we also want you guys to stay tuned, because the week after that, May 16th, we will be opening up enrollment to our Real Life Runners Training Academy. It is new and improved because we want to show you how to create a plan that's right for you. Okay. Like the way that we've run our programs in the past, we have made customized training plans for people, but I've decided that we don't want to do that anymore. We want to give you all of the tools so that you understand how to make a plan that's right for you, because that's really what we were talking about a lot in this episode, is like understanding how to train in a way that's right for you and your body and your goals and your lifestyle. And that changes, right? And you don't want to necessarily have to keep paying a running coach to just keep making plans for you, right? So we want to show you how to make that plan. So that's going to be a new program that we're opening up on May 16th. So keep your eyes out for that as well. It's only going to be open for a week. Okay. So if you're interested in that, head over. You can sign up for our challenge, and you can also sign up for our waiting list over on the website as well. If you want to get on the wait list, you can go to realliferunners.com/team, and that will let you know when that program opens. If you want to join the free 5-day challenge, you can go over to 5dayrunningchallenge.com to sign up for that today. And hopefully we'll get to see you next week, because I'm excited to coach you guys next week really through this, like getting in there and actually seeing what are those thoughts and beliefs that are getting in your way, right? Because each of us have like little different versions of those thoughts,
yes,
right?
Slightly different versions
of those thoughts. So we're going to be breaking those down, and I would love to coach you guys next week. That's really a huge part of this free live challenge, is like I get to coach you guys, and I get to coach you guys for free. So I'm here answering all of your running questions, helping you figure out why you haven't gotten faster so far, figuring figuring out why you're in a cycle of injury, figuring out why you're not making the progress that you want. Come talk to me. I would love to coach you through it. And again, that's 5dayrunningchallenge.com if you want to jump in on that week of free coaching with us. So as always, you guys, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been the Real Life Runners podcast, episode number 251. Now get out there and run your life. And bye.